This video is for a couple of different people. Some of you I may just be showing because you're family, friends, whatnot, and some of you may have a part to play in what I will get to in the end. But for those of you, particularly those of you who are from the boot camp or just coders, this is an idea I have for a website, slash a much bigger idea I have in general. And yeah, I just wanted to cue you in on it and see if you'd be interested in, I don't know, maybe working with me on it if you can't find a job right now, because I know that's a little bit difficult for all of us, considering the current pandemic situation. Okay, so this idea is called a world without jobs. I'm just gonna give you a brief introduction how I came to the idea. So I have this sort of little thing that I do where I'm constantly like looking at my belief systems that sort of control how I work. And one of the beliefs I noticed that I had was that jobs make the world go round. And I've had this very strong aversion to jobs in general. And you know, this was sort of me working through that. And one of the things I came to was that that's actually not true. And when I had that thought, all of this information just came pouring into my head, and it was like a society that was already put together, and all the little bits and pieces of my life that sort of found their way to me. It's like, oh, I know exactly how to make this work. And so, not completely, right? But my point is that basically I have this vision for what a world could be, and where there are no jobs, and it still functions just fine. And actually, technology and all the things that we think jobs are helping us with explode in just absolute in infinite possibilities, and it's really exciting. So yeah, I wanted to just invite those of you who are looking at this video to maybe participate in some way and lend some of your expertise that you've come across, and some of your time that you may have, because no one else is wanting to take it right now. So yeah, let's just get started here. This is going to be a ton of fun because I'm really excited about this. Okay, so this is an idea I've had forever. Um, and my initial idea was just to have one for myself, but a community greenhouse. Okay, so this greenhouse is nothing like the kind of greenhouses you've probably experienced. But the idea is that, like, it's giant. Okay, one of the big issues we have with these ideas of global warming and not taking care of our planet is that we transport everything everywhere. It also really hemorrhages us as soon as there's a disaster and we can't get trucks in, right? As soon as there's an earthquake or something, the people in the location can no longer eat. And as soon as there's, you know, the roads stop, you're trapped, and there's no food, and then everyone starves. So we've literally created a society that's based in this idiotic plan to send food across it. It's just so stupid. We should be growing our own food in our own communities and sharing that food with everyone. That should be a staple of the community. So in a world without jobs, we have greenhouses that we take care of, and we give food to everyone, because food is something that should just be available. Now, who's actually taking care of the greenhouses? Well, we all are. I know that the LDS Church, I don't know if all of you all are LDS, but the LDS Church has lots of orchards and things that are actually taken care of by members, and it's taken care of by volunteer work. Well, I think a little bit of volunteer work in a greenhouse is totally worth being able to eat, right? Like, that's a big deal. So these greenhouses are maintained by the community. Also, when you have a need for technology to advance, it advances. So the need for greater technology to run these greenhouses, eventually we're not really working in them as much as maintaining the machines that work in them, right? Um, this is completely within the realm of technology we have right now. It's just that it's not cost effective to do so. So we are completely and totally hemorrhaged by that. And that's what's so exciting about this idea, is that we are actually motivated by our need to survive, rather, or our need to make our lives better, rather than our need to make money so we can buy a house on the top of the hill and reign over everybody and feel impressive, right? So um, we're the whole idea here, the greenhouse really encapsulates that, is just get rid of these power structures and take care of ourselves, take care of each other. Stop begging the government to feed us. Stop begging these corporations to drag money across, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll do it, because freaking Walmart is like I don't know, I think they're all in the top 10. The whole family's in the top 10 of the richest people in the world. And it's like, well, what a waste of freaking resources. They can't spend it all, but they want it because it fulfills them somehow in some stupid broken ego type way. Anyways, all of these greenhouses are heated, powered by either solar or wind, and in the future, of course, we have more alternate clean sources of energy. Um, and as sort of a stipulation here, a community cannot grow beyond its potential to build more food. So what you don't have is people packing into one place, which is already just disgusting anyways. Suburbs are the nastiest thing that have ever happened on this planet. We murder we murder the ground that we put them on. We destroy everything to build a whole bunch of houses so people can go into an office building. This takes care of that. It spreads us out. We take care of each other. We don't take on more than we can in one neighborhood and or one community. So that's really kind of an exciting idea. Okay, so next, what is the day-to-day life for an individual who does not have a job? Okay, so of course, all members are fed, and we'll talk about housing later. Um, it's not like everyone has to have the same house. This is not socialism at all. This is absolute freedom to do whatever you want and have the capacity to do as a community, as an individual. But that's really this whole idea here, is that we're encouraging people to follow their passions. When you wake up in the morning, what's the thing that excites you the most? And now I want to talk about my brother here, because and I am sending this to him, so um, hopefully this doesn't hurt your feelings or anything. But I'm super proud of him. He's amazing. He's an engineer, and he's got a great job down in Houston. Okay, um, but I knew him when he was young, and I know that what Philip really wanted to do was build spaceships, and then he was thinking about maybe working on some, medical type engineering things, right? And right now he's working for, I believe, some way related to Whirlpool, mass producing boxes to go outside of people's boxes that they live in, so that we can all live in this miserable utopia where we work in boxes inside of boxes with boxes to keep us cool, whatever. So anyways, he's a part of that, and I think he's such a great example of someone who, if you gave Philip, who's my brother, if you gave him time and said build something, he would build something amazing. And that's what's so exciting about this. If we just take care of food and housing, which is all that we really need, technology explodes. So really the only thing that you're required to do is to make sure everyone has enough to eat, and maybe help people, building a home when they're first married, and they'd like to build a home for their children or something, right? So it's this really, we take care of each other, which gives us the time that we need to truly follow our passions, which is expanding our technology, expanding our recipes, whatever it be. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Uh, Collaboration. This is the key. This is the key, because I think something that a big fear that we have is that if we go back to this kind of society, because we kind of sort of had this at one point, but if we go back to it, it'll be like living in the Stone Age, and without corporations, we can't have technology, and that's total BS. That's total BS. Now, I'm not saying that corporations haven't served us, but they're not serving us anymore in the way that we really want to be served. So now is the time to really just sort of work out some of these problems and come up with a whole new system. And this is another part of it. Okay, so what are today's problems with corporations? Number one, we hoard information like we're freaking dying, right? Because we say information is the key to getting us wealthy. Well, if there's not that need to get wealthy anymore because your needs are met, you no longer hoard information. So Apple comes out with, well, Apple doesn't exist. Someone or a group of someone's figures out some new awesome technology. Everyone has it immediately. Everyone has it immediately because and then people can sort of like say, oh, well, that was exciting. Let's build on that, right? And what you have is this collaboration between people who are really excited about what they're doing, and it just builds on each other and builds on each other and builds on each other in a way that's just not allowed right now, because you can't have the freaking genius that works for Apple talking to the freaking genius who works for Microsoft, and they can't talk to each other because they can't share information, because we're so stingy with it, because we think that we need to save money so that we can live. But here's the thing, if we're already taken care of, we don't need to be stingy anymore. We share. And that is the absolute unfolding of the creative potential that exists on this planet today. And that cannot happen in the structures that we've created for ourselves. It just limits creativity. The other thing is we talk about, we build an iPhone and we get a whole bunch of people working on one product, right? And that's really exciting, but like they're all under this same goal, and if that is really what they want and that's really their passion, then let's celebrate that, right? Like that's awesome. But if they're one of those people who took a job because they thought they had to buy food, and maybe that job is not their highest passion, it's not their highest joy, you're actually taking them out of where they would be most beneficial to society. Now that's kind of why I mentioned my brother earlier. I'm not saying he's not beneficial to society. He absolutely is. But man, that guy, he had big dreams. And I think he will still do them regardless of what the society looks like. But think of all those people who sort of set their dreams aside so they could get a job, so they could take care of a family. Taking care of a family and feeding your family should be something that we do for each other. It should be something that we gift each other. That way, we don't have to actually spend 40 hours a week doing something that maybe we're not that passionate about. And that's a huge, huge thing. Okay, so I already talked about the solution of sharing all information freely. Okay, this will be quick because I know I'm talking a lot here, but there is this place on YouTube called Wintergotten, and this guy is making a marble machine, and it plays music, and it is the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen, but it is super, super cool. And like, I'm a huge fan. I've been following it for him forever. And basically, he just started by himself designing this thing in CAD, and he's a musician, and people have just been watching him on YouTube. Well, there's this really fantastic thing that's happening, and he is now at the head of 200 collaborators, more than 200 collaborators, people who are CADing, people who are like machining, and literally this this project, which is in a sense almost totally ridiculous because it's a marble machine that plays music, right? Like, it's ridiculous, but he is the head of this massive organization that is being, people are doing it because they're just so excited about it. Like, some of them are paid, yeah, but a lot of them are just, they're loving the experience, they're loving the exposure, and it's a beautiful thing. It's an absolute beautiful collaborative project, and that's the future. When you have an idea, you find other people who like that idea and other people who are on board, and you start building alongside each other. You have somebody in India and somebody in the United States, and you're both building this project, and you're talking about it online and communicating with each other online. The internet is such a huge part of this collaboration effort, but everyone who's interested is working together and building on each other's ideas. I mean, the amount of potential here is absolutely ridiculously insane, and we are only not utilizing it because we are so stingy and caught up in this idea that, well, we have to make money. Which, yeah, have to make money. Okay, that was embarrassing. It's the 21 Pilot song. Love it. Okay, the future of making. All right, so these are for your engineers, but also your artists and anyone who wants to make something. Okay, um, this is really essential for getting our ability to use technology outside of these big corporations. You need localized machine shops. You need localized, which we have, and we are getting more of. You need chip printers in every community. You need the ability to melt down old steel and reuse it. You need the ability to, um, take one of those old junkers sitting in the wrecking yard, melt it down, and have the technology to build a new form of transportation, right? This sort of recycling, reusing process is so essential to this entire idea, and you would need that kind of capability within the community, unless you want to go back to the Stone Ages, which we don't have to do. We have the capacity to do all of this. It's just a matter of us deciding that this is what we want for our future, and therefore building the kind of infrastructure that we could sustain in like, okay, you build this kind of steel plant, and eventually, like, that's sort of obsolete. So you use this steel plant to build the next one, right? And this is all happening within the communities with the information that's shared globally by everyone. And so you can sort of have this unfolding that happens with inside the communities themselves, right? But we need the infrastructure there first so that that infrastructure can expand, right? And that is a conscious decision that we have to make. So a lot of this idea is bringing together the right kind of people, the right people who would care to do this, to prove that we could build an infrastructure that could potentially expand in the ways that it needs to expand to become this sort of utopia. But I don't want to say that, because 60 years ago, utopia was everybody living in a box, working in a box. It's so funny. The business world follows the art world, and if you go back to the art world, all of the ideas we're living right now are the art world. It's really funny, but that's really neither here nor there. So, yeah, we recycle and we use wood, right? Of course, in our building projects, but sparingly, because we understand that the planet needs that. We're environmentally conscious, and that's super key here too, because man, we need to take care of our earth. I guess it's sort of a side thing. We could keep destroying our earth and do these communities, but why would we do that? Like, most of the destroying of the earth is happening because people want that extra money, right? They don't care because they can get the money, then they can live in the house on the top of the hill, and they can pretend like they didn't destroy nature to do it. And realtors are a perfect example of this. I live on this beautiful mountain, and I used to walk home from work, and there were all these, oh my gosh, these wildflowers, and it was just heaven. It was just heaven. And this last winter slash summer, they ripped them all out and started building condos, because on the land that should have been one property, they're now going to sell a condo for the price of one house. And so this greedy little guy, and I don't know him, and I'm sure he's a really nice guy, but he's confused because he thinks, or they think that the key is to make money, and that's not the key. The key is to live in harmony with nature, and they just destroyed this beautiful hillside, absolutely demolished it, so that they can make a quick buck, right? And then they go and they build their stupid house, and it's big, and they feel good about themselves, and it's all a nightmare. And part of this is that we've we've put in our height of all under the guise that, oh, we need food and shelter, right? But really it's just greed. It's rampant greed, and if we just turn to take care of each other instead, it would just resolve that. Okay, so technology, I've already talked about this a little bit, but that that freedom to share information, and also the freedom to have your time. Technology explodes in boundless leaps because everyone's connected and working with each other. Um, oh, this third one's really cool. So I don't know if you noticed, we have this idea in our society that you need a new phone every 3 years, which is total garbage. But it's not garbage because the people making the phones make it absolutely impossible for you to upgrade them. If you build your own phone with your own technology, it's upgradable, right? New technology comes out, you're like, ooh, I'd really like that. You go in and you can put it in because it's like open source software, which is amazing, by the way. If you're a Photoshop user, check out GIMP. It's just as good. In fact, I like the interface a little better. But it's like open source, right? So, oh, well, here's a new way to have more information saved in a smaller plug that in, right? And obviously it's a little more complicated than that. I'm not pretending that I know some stupid idiot's going, oh yeah, well, you don't actually understand technology. But like, here's the deal. Like, it can be that way because we design it that way. When we're thinking, oh, how do I upgrade this phone? Not because I want to sell as many phones as possible, which is what Apple's doing, which is what Microsoft is doing. They're not building them to be upgradable. They're not. They're just not. They're not thinking about that, right? They're thinking about making, oh, well, what's new and what's next, and that's obviously what we should be thinking. I completely agree with that. But why not reuse what we have? You have a great phone. I mean, heck, you could even freaking melt down the body of your phone and make a new phone and use a lot of the same components, right? So there's this idea that you could reuse technology, you could repurpose it, and things that don't change, that aren't changing, can stay the same, and that's super exciting. Um, oh yeah, energy. One of the biggest problems with our energy market is that it's controlled by the government. When you need to make money in order to um, have any sort of incentive for energy, well, there's not a lot of incentive. Like, if the government's in control of it, there's no incentive at all. So there's very little incentive to change our energy market. Well, if everyone's sort of in charge of their own energy needs, dude, massive explosion of energy technology. Like, the amount of resources and just people who would be interested in that, I think would be massive, right? But so many people, I think, who are interested in it would never take that leap because it's kind of an unprofitable place to be. I watched a fascinating video about nuclear power, and no one will fund nuclear power because um, it's sort of tainted in a way, and like, but once again, like, the government controls the energy. If you controlled your own energy, you could be really interested in alternative sources. And I'm not saying nuclear is the absolute source, but if we put the true potential of the human mind to work here, we could come up with incredible solutions. And a lot of these things, like these greenhouses with all their windmills and solar panels and things like that, all just sort of become obsolete very, very, very quickly. Okay, so recycling. This is a huge thing. You have to take advantage of the material that's already in your community. Um, Stop digging up the rainforest for their minerals. Stop. You know what I mean? We need to stop doing that. That's a huge problem to the environment. It's a huge problem because we have to transport it everywhere. We have old cars lying around. We have all the steel we need. We have big office buildings that won't even be used anymore. Take them apart. You get rid of jobs, we don't need these buildings. Now we have enough steel to last us for the next freaking billion years. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even need to get any more iron ore. Like, there's this sort of beauty to just using what we have but also having the capacity to use what we have in really good ways. I'm not saying make things out of garbage. I'm saying, if you need to melt something down and build something new, you have the capacity to do that. You don't have to send it away to someone else. When the capacity is localized and everybody has that opportunity because they're part of a community with that technology, then we can really start recycling in intelligent ways. And of course, some of our recycling ideas are not the most environmentally friendly, and that's okay. We can come up with better solutions. The other thing here is if we're growing all our own food locally, we need to recycle all of the minerals and things that, excuse me, get lost. And there's these things there's this show on Netflix about Bill Gates who's using these these things in third world countries to sort of reprocess poop and to turn it into fertilizer. Okay, so another thing with a greenhouse, and I don't know if you know this, but you can take old, plant material and compost it, and that compost actually helps keep things warm because as it's rotting, it keeps the greenhouses warm, and that's another way to sort of save things effectively that we already have. But yeah, why are we shipping all our poop into lakes and the ocean? No, that's silly. Take the poop, turn it into fertilizer, which is a totally doable thing, and put that into your greenhouses. Then you're not losing, yeah, sure, you lose some nutrients along the way, and maybe someday you've got to go out to someplace nearby and get a little bit of extra nutrients and sprinkle it around. But really, I don't think you much need to, because if you have an efficient recycling process, you can keep all of that nutrients in the ground. And the other thing about greenhouses is, yes, it's on a smaller scale, but they offer opportunities that you don't get on the outside, ways to harvest because you have a structure surrounding your food. Before we talked about greenhouses, I apologize. Oh yeah, and I already talked about that too. Just recycling all of this old stuff that we have. Like, there's no reason to just ship it to a wrecking yard. We can use it, and we don't have to use it as garbage. Once again, like, there's this movement of artists that's just so annoying. We're like, oh, I make things out of garbage, and it's like, well, I like making things shiny and new, but you can still do that with recycling, and that's super important to this idea. Future of schooling. Well, what happens when parents aren't leaving all the time, right? Well, the children end up getting taught in the home. There's no reason to have schools. I think it's so funny that we have this system where parents, or basically when you're a kid, you go to school and you learn everything, and then you go out and you work, and then your kids go and leave you and go learn everything that you already learned. And it's just like super stupid. It's like the kids are in the home with a parent who they already know and love, who could teach them the things that they need to know because the parent went to school. It's so stupid. It's like, for goodness sakes, like, you went to school, you could teach your kids. And once again, education does not have to be so structured. It can be based on people's passions. If someone's super passionate about painting, why are we bothering to teach them, advanced calculus? Maybe that's their passion too, right? Like, I'm not saying it isn't. That would be stupid. I'm not stupid. Yeah, I'm stupid. Okay, so you have that. People stay in the home to be taught, and that's super, super exciting as well, right? You have this great ability to just be with your kids. Parents play an integral role in raising children. And under those pretenses, they stop mass producing like total morons. We have a population problem, people. It's going to get worse if you don't stop making babies like idiots. If you have to raise every single one of your children, you will not make as many, okay? Because in the current system, men, you forget about the kids. And frankly, women, you're kidding yourself if you think you can raise like 7 children at once. And everyone knows that because the children end up raising each other, and they will all tell you that if they come from a big family. Now, I'm not saying there's a problem with that, but like when there's more responsibility on you as a parent to take care of your freaking child, like you'll think about having a kid a little bit more, and you won't just do it willy-nilly. It'll be a decision that comes from this innate desire to really foster creativity and passion of a new individual, not create little multiples of yourself so you can feel good about yourself, because that's ridiculous and that's not what it's for. Also, another beautiful thing about this is that in these sort of communities, I think that this does not necessarily have to be the case, but I think for a lot of people, they'll stick with families, and grandparents will be there. And there was this wonderful family I knew growing up called the Englands, and they had all these aunts and uncles, and it was just, they'd have these Sunday dinners, and it's just this beautiful, beautiful thing. I come from a really small family, but I love that idea, and grandparents can help with the kids as well, especially if you sort of have family units where, you know, you have a grandparent's house, and then next to it their children and their children, and sort of these communities sort of evolve in that way, and we recycle as we go. You know, the grandparents die, we recycle the things that they leave behind, and it's sort of this beautiful, you put effort in and you get so much back because it doesn't just go away. It's like when you go to your job and you put in all this effort and then you come home, the only thing you have to show for that is some little dollar bills. And that's just kind of, I mean, yeah, like you have your house and great, but you know, it's not an infrastructure that you're really creating for yourself for your future generations. And anyways, I think that's really exciting. Future of travel, be really brief here. We'll travel for pleasure, not for business, because there's no business. So there will be people who are excited about creating transportation, and they will share their ideas, and we will have better transportation, and it will be easier, and it will be more enjoyable. Our airplanes are big tubes with holes poked in the side. Now, I understand that bigger windows is problematic for air pressure and whatnot, but maybe there wouldn't be so many people stuffed into a tube if it was more about pleasure and less about business. You know, I think the majority of travel industry is business right now because we have people needing to travel all over. And that's not to say if you're building something with someone else that you can't all go have a big old party when it's finished, you know, a big old concert, and just, you know, have a bunch of people come together. Like, yeah, of course, we'll still have that kind of thing. But once again, that's celebration. That's not like, oh, I need to figure out how to sell 1,000 of this one thing that we make to these people over, right? So business will just, or travel will just be so much more enjoyable. And I do think that there will still be need for that. Future food. Yes, there's a place in this society for everyone. And really that's what I'm trying to share here. It was just an idea I had. We use Pinterest right now, and you can just scroll down and look at all these beautiful pictures of food that people make, and it's truly a stimulating experience if you've ever done it before. But yeah, chefs post their food, and that's exciting, and we share the recipes, right? Like everyone has the recipes to make Oreos. Everyone has the recipes to make all of these kinds of food. It's part of the human treasure. It's part of our treasure of knowledge that we share with every single person. And yeah, there may be some baking of your own, and there may be some technology that helps with the baking eventually. And these recipes just sort of trickle out. And you know, if someone wants to come up with a brand new recipe that's just going to be delicious, they can do that, and they can share that with people, and they don't have to make money from it because they're taken care of, they're fed, and they have a house, which is all that they need. And also what you need is to follow your passion, because that's what brings you joy. And so all of that is sort of coming together when we just take care of each other. Okay, building homes and land. Now this is a big thing that I think about a lot because of where I live, and partly because something I'm really excited about is building. This is controlled by and managed by the community. And this is so different from what we have now because I grew up in a small town, and every time they sell an orchard, they build 50 homes. And when I was a kid, there were just beautiful, endless rows of orchards. And now that's all gone, right? And it's really sad. It's really, really sad to see a small town get taken over by these people who are looking to make a quick buck. And I've already talked about that. Realtors they can go in, they can buy a piece of land, and then they split it up into a bunch of tiny things, and people have to live with smelling each other's armpits, and it's just really sad, and sort of disgusting, and it needs to end. But yeah, so the land is taken care of by the community, so it's managed by the community. If someone wants to join your community and the community agrees that that's okay, then you'll find land for them to join you in. And obviously there need to be some sort of rules, and I don't have those right of how far apart these houses need to be to allow nature to continue to move through and flourish. Also, you know, when you have extra space, you really begin to beautify that land, and you have artists and architects who are building beautiful gardens and community libraries. Imagine if the library in your hometown wasn't built by the government who's trying to appease the people so that they don't get overrun, right? Because it's essentially what they're doing. They're just trying to give us enough so we don't burn them to the ground. I don't want to do that. I'm not Antifa, but like that's the basic idea of giving a community a library. Now I'm saying that a library is built by artists, architects, construction people who are excited about building beautiful buildings. It would be like Beauty and the Beast in every single freaking town. You know what I mean? Or they're completely different, right? Because creativity is just on a rampage right now. Just beautiful, beautiful community buildings, gardens, parks, places for people to enjoy themselves, big entertainment vistas, outdoor theaters, whatever it is, to really just, make our spaces beautiful. And when you own your space and you're not having someone breathe down your neck because they live so close to you, it's so much easier to care about it, and it's so much easier to just really take ownership of your town and make it beautiful. And I love that idea. Yeah, and then once again, recycle old homes when it's time. Everything else, okay, entertainment, spirituality, fantasy, whatever, right? Like that grows too, because there are people who are really excited about that as well. Now, I don't know if you've seen the new Mandalorian. There's this fantastic little video that Disney put out where they just show how they shot it, and it's amazing because under the restrictions of we're on a limited budget, they came up with this incredible new way to shoot movies using gaming technology. And if you haven't seen it, you really need to go see it. It's amazing. But that's sort of just one example of when you put limitations on people, but not limitations on knowledge or technology, just limitations on maybe like you don't have $1 billion to make this film, they figure out ways. Also, we're sharing, right? So we can reuse animations. We can take an animation, we can sort of shake it down a little bit and build it back up into something else. Like there are so many ways when we collaborate with each other that we can build these beautiful imaginary worlds and teach really beautiful lessons, which is what entertainment is all about. And all of these things can still happen. It's just a matter of us using our creativity to think about them in new ways, and using technology to sort of implement them in new ways, which is super, super exciting. We don't have to go back to the Stone Age. Once again, we don't have to go back to the Stone Age. Okay, so finally got to the end. 40 minutes later, I may have to do some editing here. So number one, how do we go about creating this? Well, I mentioned earlier that this is a choice. What it requires is that the people of Earth take the time to make the resources, to come up with the technologies needed, to put them in place. You would need a hub, right, to connect with other people. You would need all sorts of things that ideas that need to come together, right? Um, that needs to happen. There needs to be a collective decision to do this. And it's not, the collective decision is not, or should not be, and I mean this very emphatically, to tear down the government we already have when we don't have an alternative solution. That's what we're doing right now, and it's really going to suck. We can come together as a community, as a people, and begin to start this sharing on our own. If it's just one or two people, yeah, they might get killed by the freaking the freaking automobile industry, right? But if it's a bunch of people coming together and starting this, bringing this idea together and sort of pooling our information and starting to share, like just like open source software, which is so cool, right? It's just this big collaboration of people. We come together, we build this thing, and right, like that's the key, right? So how do I start that movement, or how do we start that movement? If you want to participate, and once again, this may not work, this may be a total waste of time, and that's totally fine, because I want to do it. But how do we start the ball rolling if we're gonna have a ball at all? And my thought is, well, I know how to build websites, and I think that's the key. I want to build a website that is a place where people can start adding their ideas in one place, of what needs to happen. Now, this website is not a super networking site. It doesn't need to be. There are plenty of those. And what's beautiful about this is that we're actually using the infrastructure that we already have with these big companies, right? Discord. Start a Discord server for greenhouses. Have a link for that on the website. So there is one centralized location, but really the centralized location is just a matter of sort of pooling ideas and people saying, okay, well, I think that in order to have this technology work in this kind of environment, we need this. And people who are interested in economics talking about, well, what form of trading can we do, and how can we come up with a system that works, that doesn't make it so problematic again, right? Like we need that kind of collaboration from all points, and that's the key of this website. So essentially it would be a place where you could post an idea if you were interested. Also, I think it would be cool to have it linked to a place where people could donate to actually purchase some land and build a which is essentially the crux of this. I want to build an example community that the rest of the world could say, that's cool. We don't have to do it exactly that way, but we can do it something like that. And so as this idea sort of unfolds, I want it to be a massive collaborative effort where people from all over can sort of pitch into this idea, because it's going to take conscious, intentional decision making to have this work. We have to literally say, we are going to build a society that no longer needs to be governed except by those who live there, who no longer needs to be taken care of by Walmart. We don't need Walmart anymore. Goodbye, Walmart. Love you. You're great for now, but we won't need you anymore. And it takes a conscious effort to do that, to start thinking of ideas of how to make these greenhouses work and how to make them feed a larger community, right? And what space do we need to make a functional greenhouse for a large community? And what space, and these greenhouses, let me just say, you got bananas, pineapples, apples, whatever you want, right? Because greenhouses are kind of cool that way. You could also do some planting outside if you need to, right? But how much land do we need to have enough food for these people? Okay? And how much space do we need for a machining shop? And how much space do we need for a um, I don't know, a library or something like that, right? Like this sort of idea of like um, the big questions, right? But that's what the website's for. Now I haven't completely worked it out exactly, but I am just sort of reaching out to you guys now, seeing what you think. Once again, if you are just family or something and you'd love to help, by all means, let me know. Um, and for those of you who are from the boot camp or coders, let me know how you'd like to help with the website. But that's my plan of action going forward here. Um, and then it's just a matter of freaking dumping it everywhere, telling everyone you know, and maybe it catches on, maybe it absolutely doesn't. And once again, that's okay because because it's what I'm excited about, and I'd love to share that future with all of you, and that's why I'm that's why I'm reaching out to you, because each and every one of you I could see living in a community with you, and I could see taking care of each other and looking out for each other. And by doing that, affording each other the opportunity to really just expand as the beautiful incarnations that we are and the unique, wonderful people that we were designed to be. And yeah, no, I mean, it could be a beautiful, beautiful thing. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot, and if I don't make it, that's okay. But anyways, let me know what you think, and appreciate your time. I know this was really long, and I apologize. But have a great day, and let me know what you think.